welcome to Caminho's Do Jazz. I'm Katchie Cartwright, your host, bringing you world jazz and Brazilian mixtures every Saturday morning from 10 to 11, right here on your home for jazz, listener-supported KRTU San Antonio. Beautiful. And that was About Silence. Brand new, released yesterday, as a matter of fact, from my special guest here this morning on Caminho do Jazz, and that's Marco Antonio Santos. And he's been in San Antonio for the last couple of hours. There's a lot of construction here at Trinity University. We managed finally to get together, and I'm so happy he's here. Marco, you want to tell me a little bit about what we just heard?
Yes. Hi, Katchie.
Hi.
So this is About Silence. That's the first track. That's the first single that I released yesterday, and that's the first track of the album they're going to be releasing on May 5th by Ears and Eyes Records. And the album has the same name. It's About Silence.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Definitely. It's a beautiful album. I'm just getting to hear it with everybody else for the first time, and it's really exciting. So for those of you who are not familiar with Marco San Antonios, listen to this new name. There you are.
My name here.
Yes. Marco Antonio Santos. He has been in, how long have you been in Austin? For
7 years.
7 years. 7 years. He's originally from Brazil, as you might have guessed, from Minas Gerais. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what led you to Texas?
Actually, it's two factors. One of them is Maria Schneider. So I went to New York 9 years ago to watch her concerts, and I was always being a huge fan of hers. And then watching her concert, I had this idea. I had the urge to study composition. And I was working in São Paulo, and everything was going all right, but I had to stop everything and come back to study, especially composition. And talking to one professor that I met in São Paulo, one professor that teaches here, and he was teaching Kansas City University. I was asking about places to apply for a master's, and he told me about UT.
Oh.
So that's why I moved to Austin.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. And we're really glad you did, because since arriving in our neck of the woods, Marco, who plays guitarra and violon.
Yes.
He has been quickly become really A-list first call guitarist for all sorts of different genres of music. What's the kind of range of stuff that you play as a performer in Texas right now?
That's a lot. So I've been playing a lot with singers, so pop music and wedding bands and country singers and a lot of jazz and a lot of Brazilian music. And the list goes on and on.
I should actually mention that it's Dr. Marco Antonio Santos, because he did get his doctoral degree, as did some other members of your ensemble. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the musicians for a second?
Sure. So this is a project with 12 musicians. It's a lot of people. So the rhythm section, it's me. It's Fábio Agostinho, a Brazilian, also a doctor. It's teaching at Texas Tech right now. The drummer, and the bass player is Chris Jones. He's also like a very prolific guy in Austin, the Austin scene, jazz scene. And then you have the woodwinds. You have Dominic Rayleigh. It's a master flute player from UT. You have Bridget, that's a bassoon player, also a master's from UT. Dave Blackwell Jr., that plays the oboe and English horn. You just heard him playing a beautiful solo. And also a UT person. And who I'm missing? Oh, and the clarinet. It was my composition professor. That's Dr. John Mills.
How cool.
He's a composition professor at UT. And I have the
wonderful
strings. So you have Corina Santos, also finished UT.
Daughter of old friend and a longtime staple of the Brazilian, Brazilian music scene there.
So her Santos is a Brazilian Santos, like me. And we have Camille X, is a great violin player, also UT person. Rebecca Lester is a viola player. And the cello player is Matt Armbruster. So all of them are UT people.
Cool. So were colleagues of yours, or did you teach them, or?
So colleagues, yes. Some of them like personal friends. Some of them because I did a lot of gigs together. Like Camille, we do a lot of gigs together in different scenes. She's a fantastic player. Fabio is a friend of mine for the last 20 years. Chris, we played together a lot. Music was my professor. So it's like different backgrounds.
That's great. So before we start with some more music, which I'm eager to hear, we're a little short for time, but I wanted to ask you a little bit about your two things. One is the project itself, the concept of the project. Where did that come from?
So it's a conceptual album, like I said. It's about silence. It is about silence. But I'm talking silence in different perspectives and meanings and more philosophical and poetic ideas about silence. So this first one we listen here together. It's really about the absence of sound, like the classic idea of silence. But it also have a silence about police brutality and how this silence some parts of our society. And I have the silence about grief. And I have the silence about saudade, which is a Brazilian word for missing someone or something. So this bittersweet thing, which is saudade. And the music, it's every song has a different connotation about silence. It's related to a different one. And I have like poetry about it. Each one of them. We have videos about it, and we have a dancer in one of them.
Yeah, I'm really eager to hear and see all of that. How is that going to be presented with the album?
So this one with the dancer, it's coming on April 7th. This is where I have the pre-order for the CD and the digital copies. And there is a website from Portland.
What is that?
The Portland, what's the name of the Portland?
Well, where's the easiest way? Why don't we just send them to your website?
Yes, that's great. If you go to Musician Marco on Instagram, you find me everything that I'm posting.
Great handle.
Or on my website, marcoantoniosantos.com.
Okay.
And then on April 7th, we're going to live stream the video that has Sarah Wales.
Oh, great.
Dancing with the band, live, improvising with the band.
Oh, fantastic.
Dancing.
Fantastic. You know, as you're saying this, it to me, it reminds me of kind of like conceptually of kind of like South Indian thing. You know, these are like ragas on silence. Each has a different mood and a different, kind of setting, perhaps time of day, sound like ragas. What about John Cage? Did he enter in any of your thoughts on this?
It's funny because like every time I wrote something about silence, someone mentions this. Oh, you need to play John Cage.
You don't need to. I'm just wondering if you read anything, because he talks about silence.
Yes, I did. But it was after
you had already had the idea.
I already had the idea, but I always knew about him, of course.
Right.
And yes.
Well, silence is fascinating. Okay. Well, why don't we listen then to another piece? We're going to hear, what track is that? Part 2.
Eyes of Us Both.
Yes, Eyes of Us Both, Part 2. And that's, okay.
Yes.
Track 7. All right. Again, you are listening to KRTU San Antonio. I'm Katchie Cartwright. This is Caminos do Jazz. You can go to the blog, which is caminosdojazz.blogspot.com. And Caminos is spelled Caminhos, D-O, Jazz, J-A-Z-Z, caminosdojazz.blogspot.com. You can also check us on Instagram and Facebook. I'm here with Marco Antonio Santos playing you heard it first here, playing something from his soon-to-be-released album About Silence, Marco Antonio Santos. Yeah, beautiful. And that was Eyes of Us Both, Part 2, from the brand new, not yet released disc, except for the single About Silence. About Silence from our special guest here at Caminho's Do Jazz today, Marco Antonio Santos. And you want to tell us just a little bit about the cut we just heard?
Yes. So
what flavor of silence is this?
Flavor of silence. So you know when you get comfortable in silence with someone? That's the kind of silence I'm talking about.
Good one. Yes. So what's next for this project?
So yesterday I released the first single on streaming device. So if you go to Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Tidal, blah, 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 blah. You search for Marco Antonio Santos, About Silence. You find this single. And then there's the pre-order happening on April 7th, like I said. So the PortlandJazzBlog.com, they're going to stream a video with the dancer that she improvised with us. That's a video. And the pre-order is going to happen on April 7th. And then on April 21st, there's a second single coming out. It's the Eyes of Us Both Part 1.
Ah, good.
Is the other side of this spectrum. And then on May 5th, we have the album release by Ears and Eyes Records. That's the label. And on May 10th, I'm really excited about it. It's going to be produced by COTFG. That's the concert release for the album. Crash Box in Austin.
Great.
So May 10th, 7:30 p.m.
I'll be there.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
That's really great. And all of this, if you can't remember all those individual things, if you go to either check musician Marco at Instagram or marcoantoniosantos.com.
Yes.
As for the website, and you will find all that information. Thank you so much for coming today. I mean, it really is such a pleasure. I want to ask you, we have a little bit of time, and I want to introduce you a little further to the listeners. Tell us about the music that you heard growing up. What were your parents? What was in your house? Let's start with that a little bit.
Wow, that's a good question. So my dad was very inconsistent about his taste in music. So he was changing flavors all the time. So I remember here in my house, John Denver. I remember listening, oh my God, rock stuff or PGs. Mm-hmm. And then some Brazilian stuff, like some Brazilian singers.
Like who?
Like, let me get someone here. Betania, maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like different stuff. But my dad used to listen to not the usual stuff. But I don't come from a musician, like a family that has musicians.
Family. Yeah. What about your mother?
Not really. She was not like a super music person. She's way more now that I'm a musician. And now she's more interested about it than before.
What is she listening to now?
My mom likes Marisa Monte a lot. Mm-hmm. She's a Brazilian singer.
She wants to be young and beautiful again. Like all of us.
Yeah. So yeah, sorts of like all sorts of different stuff. Janis Joplin, remember my house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And what about you? What struck the chord first with you? What kinds of things?
Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin. Seriously.
It's funny how that was like one of my first things as a teenager.
You needed cooling, apparently.
Yeah. It's one of the things that made me play the guitar was this.
Wow.
I was listening to Dan. And then, of course, I changed and listened to, I still love it, but I listen to sort of different stuff. And then from that to Pat Metheny, from Pat Metheny to Ravel and Penderecki. It's just like a little jump here and there.
What about Brazilian musicians?
Yeah, I'm a super huge fan of Lula Galvão. He's a Brazilian guitar player. Everything he touches for me, it's gold. So Rosa Passos is someone that he plays together. So I love it. Fantastic singer. I love Elise. I love Chico Buarque. A lot of people from Minas, of course, my home state, so Milton Nascimento, Lô Borges, which is someone that I keep rediscovering. It's funny, when I was in Minas, I was not listening too much from Minas music. and then I moved to São Paulo, and then I found out how is Minas.
Yes, that's like learning another language.
Yes,
you know,
and then I leave Brazil.
Yeah,
I started listening to Brazilian music.
That's a saudade factor.
Exactly.
So we're almost done here. Anything else you would like to say to our listeners about the project? Let's just remind them again.
Sure. So the first single came out yesterday. That's About Silence on all the music streaming devices. The album is going to be released on May 5th on digital copies and CDs. That's not going to be on streaming, so you need to go after that. And the concert is on May 10th. I think that's the most important thing.
Beautiful. And thank you so much for coming down here to Caminhos do Jazz right here on KRTU San Antonio. Your home for jazz in the Alamo City. How's that? United by Latin jazz, united by Brazilian jazz. And it's time now for the Jazz Voice with Joan Carroll. So thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.